And Ken will head that up. I look forward to your questions and your presentation, Ken. Please welcome him.
Hi. I bring to you today Ken's little black box. I always have little goodies in here, some rather unique goodies. And I had several things springing through my mind over the week trying to decide exactly how I wanted to do this. And I talked with John a little bit yesterday, and we kicked around a couple ideas, and I took a little bit and I threw away a few of my own. So today, I would like each one of you to transport yourself back in time. Think of a time in history. History of the earth. History of the universe. And you're a person, a creature, a being out there at that time. And you're walking around and you find something. One of my objects in the box. Now what I'd like to do is you to come up here, choose an object out of the box of your choice, name your own poison, and talk to us and explain to us what that object does in your point in time. Who'd like to suggest a point in time? John, you're a good equal person. Define a point in time.
The Stone Age.
Well, what better person to talk about the Stone Age, perhaps, than George? George, I feel your pain! I would think in the history of Toastmasters, the use of language, space. Obviously you had an inevitable task ahead of you and you performed it. Well, George, I think it only fair that because you came out of the Stone Age, as we progress through time, you've got a time in the millenniums that might be interesting.
1930s.
1930s, interesting time. Well, there's not a lot of us that remember the 1930s, but perhaps Don has a little better handle on that. Suppose the cover after you choose your object.
Well, I wasn't around in those days, so I'm going to have to draw on my childhood and being brought up by my father, with my parents, with my father. Both my parents came off the farm. And the one lesson that a primary lesson I drew from my parents were that they could do anything. Whenever there was something to be fixed around the house, if I didn't have the right tool, my first thought was, well, I have to run to the hardware store, to Home Depot, also known by my parents to me as my toy store, to buy the right tool. Because if you have the right tool, then the job is easy. But that's not the way my parents thought. They saw a problem and figured out, what do I need to do to fix the problem? And they made their own tool. They, from whatever was at hand, they made. Now I remember a particular point in time where my father wanted to cut a limb off of a tree. And we had a ladder, it was about 8 foot tall. And he said, son, cut that limb off. Well, I put the ladder up to the tree, and there was still like a 4 to 5 foot distance between the top of the ladder and the limb. And I went back to my father and said, it can't be done. I can't reach the limb to saw it off. Went back in the house, went back out, and here my father had tied a rope on the end of the ladder, hauled it up off the ground, around the limb, was leaning on the tree. Then he climbed the ladder, which was just held by the rope, sawed the limb off, came back down the ladder, job done. So, whatever the problem, what I drew from my parents was you figure out how to make the tool you need to fix the problem.
Well, sticking with the tradition of passing on the point in history, Don, would you do us the honor of picking a more recent time in history, perhaps?
Let's move it on up to late 60s, early 70s, the time of free love and hippies and the new generation.
I like it. Who really likes that time? Anybody here really like that time?
Yeah.
Kate, you like that time?
I can't remember that.
I share your pain, but come on up here and share with us, maybe.
Oh, thank you.
See how courageous you are.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. This is something that I used in the late 60s and early 70s. I don't know how it got in your box, but I've been looking for it. I think I was in the 60s. It was my goal to work in theater, and I was planning to be an actress. I applied to a summer theater to be an apprentice, thinking, oh, wonderful, I can be an actress there. Unfortunately, no. I worked on building sets. Now, I had no experience with construction, of course, but it didn't matter, I guess, because they gave me a hammer, a drill, a saw, and I learned. So I think this is one of the things I use to construct the set. I also clean toilets. No acting.
I think, Kate, well done. It almost brings a little misty tear to my eye to see each one of you perform a little bit. But I will turn this over to our very competent Toastmaster.
Mr. Timer, may I have a timer's report, please?
Sure. George, look, 41 seconds. Don within time 2:23, and Kate within time 1:17.
Very good.